Hey there, dear listener. Don't panic. I'm not the one narrating tonight's story. My voice isn't exactly bedtime material. I'm just here to wish you a very good night. You know, even if no one notices, you've been fighting your own battles, and I hope everything in your life turns out just the way you want. If you like, you can join the Prehistoric Sleep family by subscribing. And hey, if you're on your phone, just tap the screen once and hit that little thumbs up in the corner. Now, get ready for the mysterious life of our saber-toothed tiger. Clear your mind, relax, and enjoy.
In the stillness of a mist-covered land, there lies a body of water. It has captured the imagination of people for centuries. Loch Ness, deep and dark, this Scottish lake is more than just a geographic feature. It is a place where legends are born, where whispers in the night weave into stories that travel across generations. The phrase "sea monster secrets" echoes in hushed tones. It is passed between villagers and travelers alike. They speak of a being that lurks in the water, hidden beneath layers of time and fog, a creature that might hold the key to Loch Ness's origins. To begin, we must imagine the silence of the highlands at night. A silence broken only by the faint rustle of wind through the pines, and the occasional cry of a distant bird. The lake rests like a black mirror, reflecting nothing but the void above. Within this void there are secrets, secrets that some claim are ancient, far older than human history. Fishermen tell stories of sudden waves striking their boats even when the wind is calm. They speak of shadows moving beneath the surface. Shadows so large they make the water ripple as though an invisible hand was stirring the depths. The mystery always leads back to the same question. Could it be a survivor from another age? Could it be that the stories of a monstrous serpent-like form rising from the lake are rooted not in myth, but in memory? As we explore these sea monster secrets, it is impossible not to consider the plesiosaur. This marine reptile thrived millions of years ago when oceans were filled with colossal creatures. With its long neck, powerful flippers, and jaws lined with sharp teeth, the plesiosaur was a predator of elegance and terror. Fossils reveal a body built for silent pursuit, capable of gliding effortlessly through the water. Now imagine such a creature finding refuge in the icy waters of the north as ages shifted and climates changed. Perhaps a few survived, retreating to hidden places like Loch Ness. This possibility forms the spine of Loch Ness origins. The villagers of old told stories that blur the line between folklore and truth. Travelers describe glimpses of serpentine shapes rising above the waves. Some accounts mention a head on a long, slender neck breaking the surface only to vanish in a rush of water. The fear and wonder etched into these testimonies is the fuel that keeps the myth alive. But myths are not just tales. They are reflections of human attempts to understand the unknown. Each time a ripple crosses the still surface of Loch Ness, it becomes another thread in the tapestry of mystery. What is hiding beneath the black water? What is it that defies explanation? Science has tried to answer. Sonar scans have detected massive moving objects within the lake. Shadows larger than any known fish. Forms that rise, then vanish into the dark, as if the very lake were guarding its secrets. Some dismiss these readings as errors, tricks of technology, yet others insist they are glimpses of the truth that sea monster secrets are not mere inventions, but fragments of reality concealed within the depth of Loch Ness origins. As the night deepens, imagine a boat drifting across the still water. The lantern aboard casts a weak glow, barely penetrating the fog. The crew listens intently to the silence. They know the legends. They know the danger. Yet curiosity drives them forward. The water beneath them stirs. A low ripple moves outward across the surface, as though something massive has shifted in the unseen world below. A moment later, the surface breaks. A shadowy form rises, long and curved. The glisten of scales shimmers briefly before the creature sinks back into the black. The crew is frozen. No word is spoken, but their eyes tell the story. They have seen what generations have whispered about. They have encountered the sea monster secrets. And in that moment, Loch Ness Origins is not myth but reality. The creature does not remain. Its presence is fleeting, like a ghost in the fog. Yet the impact lasts forever. Stories born of fear and awe ripple through villages, carried on the voices of those who dare to speak aloud what they saw. These stories weave into history, binding the past with the present. The plesiosaur theory gains strength with each tale. Could such a predator survive hidden in these depths? Could Loch Ness truly shelter an ancient lineage untouched by extinction? Such thoughts echo in the minds of both believers and skeptics. Science demands evidence. Faith thrives on mystery. And Loch Ness provides both shadows and silence. Shadows that suggest massive forms beneath the waves. Silence that refuses to give answers. The balance of these two creates the endless fascination that surrounds the lake. As we drift deeper into the origins of this tale, we begin to realize that the mystery itself is as powerful as any discovery. The allure of the unknown is what draws humanity again and again toward the impossible. The sea monster secrets are not only about what may dwell in the water. They are about the human heart, its craving for wonder, its need for stories that stretch beyond the horizon. Loch Ness Origins is more than a question of biology or paleontology. It is a mirror reflecting our own hunger for the extraordinary. When the mist thickens and the night falls silent, the lake holds its breath. In that silence, anything is possible. A ripple, a shadow, a fleeting form on the surface. And suddenly, the ancient past feels alive once more. The plesiosaur, the ghost of prehistory, glides through our imagination, whispering its presence without revealing its face. This is the beginning of the journey, the first step into the sea monster secrets, the threshold of Loch Ness Origins, where myth meets science and dreams meet fear, where silence is filled with possibility and darkness with unseen motion. The story begins here, in the heart of the mist, in the depths of the unknown. The plesiosaur was a creature of the ancient seas. With its long neck and sleek body, it ruled the oceans during the time of the dinosaurs. It was not a fish and not a dinosaur, but a marine reptile built for power and grace. Its 4 large flippers moved like wings beneath the surface, propelling it forward in silence. The jaws were lined with sharp teeth, perfect for seizing slippery prey. Fossils tell us that some species of plesiosaur grew longer than 15 meters. They were apex hunters of their time. They lived in oceans that covered much of the earth millions of years ago. When we imagine such a being in the still waters of Loch Ness, it feels impossible. Yet it is this impossibility that fuels the legend. Sea monster secrets. Loch Ness Origins. Scientists argue that creatures like the plesiosaur could not survive in a cold freshwater lake. They needed warm seas and abundant food. But the mystery of Loch Ness has never been bound by rules. The depth of the lake, the strange sonar readings, the eyewitness accounts of long-necked silhouettes, they all keep the story alive. For every skeptic who dismisses the legend, there is a believer who points to the shadows. In those shadows, the image of a plesiosaur still glides. Some suggest that if a creature did survive, it would have adapted over time. Evolution bending its body to fit the cold waters, changing its habits, hunting in silence, emerging only in rare moments. This would explain why sightings are so brief, why the evidence always feels incomplete. It would also explain why the legend never fades. The absence of certainty is its greatest strength. A mystery without answers is a mystery that never dies. Imagine now a quiet night on the loch. The mist is heavy. A group of explorers drift across the dark water. They carry equipment, cameras, sonar devices. They hope to find proof of the creature that generations have called Nessie. Hours pass in silence. The water is calm. The machines hum softly. Suddenly, a shape moves beneath the boat. A dark mass, large, fluid. The sonar screen flickers with a reading that none can explain. A living shadow slides through the depths. One of the explorers catches a glimpse at the surface. A long curve breaking the water. A neck, a ridge. Then it vanishes with barely a ripple. The boat rocks gently. Hearts pound. They whisper to one another, but no one raises their voice. What they saw cannot be proven, yet it cannot be denied. The legend of Loch Ness origins grows stronger. The sea monster's secrets whisper again. For the explorers, the moment will never leave them. In their dreams, the shadow returns. In their waking thoughts, they replay the ripple, the glimmer of scales, the silence that followed. Science will record the sonar reading as an anomaly. Skeptics will call it illusion. But the story will spread. Another thread woven into the fabric of the mystery. The plesiosaur remains unseen, yet always present. Its ghost swims through the imagination of all who hear the tale. Loch Ness becomes not just a lake, but a doorway to the ancient world. A place where time folds, where past and present meet. And in the still black water, the unknown waits. Always silent, always watching. The legend of Loch Ness has always lived in the voices of the people. For centuries, stories have passed from mouth to mouth, each generation adding their own shadow, their own ripple, their own memory of what was seen in the mist. Some tales are told by elders who swear they saw a long neck rise from the water. Others come from frightened fishermen who felt their boats tilt under a hidden force. These stories bind the community. They give the lake its aura, and they keep the sea monster's secrets alive. Loch Ness Origins is not only about fossils or science. It is about human memory, the way people shape their world with stories, the way silence in the night can become a roar in the imagination. To understand this, we must picture the loch itself. It is not a small pond. It is a vast stretch of water more than 30 kilometers long, narrow and deep like a scar carved into the earth. The surrounding hills rise steep and silent, covered in pine and heather. Mist drapes itself across the surface each morning and evening. The water itself is dark, almost black, because of the peat that flows from the rivers. In such water, shadows linger. Light is swallowed. Anything moving below becomes invisible. This natural mystery adds to the legend. For what better hiding place for a creature from the past? The villagers often say the loch has moods. Some days it is calm and still like glass. Other days it is restless with waves, though no wind blows. To them, these moods are signs. The creature moves. The creature rests. They watch the surface with patient eyes, waiting for proof that never comes, yet always feels near. Now imagine a night long ago. The moon is hidden. The stars are faint. A group of travelers makes camp near the shore. They light a fire. They speak of the legends. One laughs. Another shakes his head. But as the night deepens, they hear something. A sound like rushing water, though the surface is still. The laughter fades. They step closer to the shore, and then it comes. A shape rising, slowly, smoothly, a curve that catches the firelight. A neck stretching high above the water. The head turns. The eyes gleam faintly. For a moment time stops. Then the creature sinks again without a splash. The travelers are left in silence. Their hearts race. Their minds refuse to believe. Yet they know what they saw. In that instant, Loch Ness origins became real to them. The sea monster secrets were no longer distant whispers. They were alive. From that night, their lives are changed. They tell others. Some believe. Some laugh. But the story enters the chain of memory, passed down, strengthened, transformed. This is how myths grow. Not from lies, but from experiences wrapped in mystery. Science will ask for proof. The people will offer only their voices, and the loch will remain silent. To this day, researchers still return. Cameras scan the surface. Drones fly above. Sonar sweeps below. Each time something strange appears. A blur, a shadow, a mass too large to explain. The reports spark excitement, yet they never resolve the mystery. The creature remains unseen, elusive. Some say this is the greatest proof of all, that only a living being could evade capture so perfectly. Others claim it is all imagination, but imagination has power, especially in the dark, especially in the quiet moments before sleep. This is why the legend thrives in stories told at night, when the world is hushed, when every sound is magnified, when the mind welcomes wonder. The sea monster secrets whisper loudest then. The idea of a plesiosaur gliding silently through black water becomes real in dreams. The thought that Loch Ness origins could connect us to prehistory fills the imagination with awe. Even skeptics, when standing at the shore in the fog, feel a tingle of uncertainty. They sense the weight of centuries pressing down. They know they are part of something larger than themselves, a mystery that refuses to fade. Consider how many eyes have watched the surface, how many cameras have tried to capture proof, yet the water remains unreadable. The depth swallows light, the silence mocks certainty. This balance keeps the legend alive. Too much evidence would end the story. Too little would erase it. But Loch Ness offers just enough. A ripple here, a shape there, always on the edge of vision, always just beyond reach. It is this dance between belief and doubt that makes the legend eternal. One cannot sleep in the highlands without thinking of the loch, without wondering what lies beneath. The hills echo with silence. The water glimmers faintly, and in the imagination the creature rises again, long neck stretching, eyes glowing, vanishing without a sound. The people call it Nessie. The scientists call it a myth. But to those who dream it is the bridge between worlds, between past and present, between fact and story. Sea monster secrets, Loch Ness origins. The words are more than titles. They are the heartbeat of the mystery. They are the rhythm that keeps the legend alive. They are the breath that fills the silence with possibility. And so the story continues. In every ripple, in every shadow, in every whispered tale told by firelight, the loch holds its secrets, and humanity keeps searching. The journey has only begun. The story of the plesiosaur begins far away from Loch Ness. It begins in oceans that stretched endlessly millions of years ago. The seas of the Jurassic period were alive with giants. Long-necked reptiles glided through the waves. Fish darted in schools. Sharks prowled, and among them the plesiosaur reigned. Its body was powerful yet graceful. Its flippers beat like wings under the water. It could rise, turn, dive, all with silence. The long neck gave it reach to strike at fish. The jaws were lined with sharp teeth, each tooth angled to hold slippery prey. Fossils discovered across Europe and beyond tell us of their size. Some were as small as 3 meters, others longer than 15. They hunted with precision. They lived in pods or alone. We cannot be sure, but their bones speak of power. Their form speaks of survival. When extinction came at the end of the Cretaceous, many believed all plesiosaurs vanished. Yet the thought lingers. What if not all were lost? What if some found hidden places? Deep lakes carved by glaciers. Places where light does not reach. Where silence guards secrets. This is where Loch Ness Origins begins to connect with ancient seas. The villagers whisper of shapes in the fog. The travelers describe necks and humps. The scientists find sonar blurs that suggest massive forms. The link to the plesiosaur becomes tempting. Some experts dismiss it. They say it is impossible, but impossible does not silence belief. Instead, it feeds it. The more unlikely, the more powerful the story becomes. Sea monster secrets thrive on this tension, between what can be explained and what cannot, between fossil and shadow, between memory and evidence. In this way, the plesiosaur never died. It lives in imagination, it swims in dreams, and in Loch Ness it finds a home. Imagine standing at the edge of the loch at dawn. The mist drifts slow across the water. The hills are silent. The surface is still. Suddenly, a ripple moves outward, slow at first, then wider. Something has shifted below. You lean forward, eyes searching, and then you see it. A shape breaking the water, long curved, dark, a neck rising. The head small against the length of the body. It turns, it watches. For a breathless moment you stare at each other. Then it vanishes. The water calms. The mist closes, and you are left in silence. Was it real? Was it dream? The line blurs, and in that blur the legend grows. This is the rhythm of Loch Ness Origins. To be certain yet uncertain. To be awake yet dreaming. Every ripple becomes a question. Every shadow becomes a possibility. The plesiosaur becomes both ghost and predator, both myth and memory. Science seeks bones. It seeks tissue. It seeks proof. But Loch Ness gives only glimpses. It gives silence, and silence can be louder than evidence. For in silence, imagination fills the gaps. The villagers know this. They tell stories not to prove, but to preserve. Each tale adds another layer to the sea monster secrets. Each voice keeps the creature alive. Think of a winter night centuries ago. A lone fisherman rows across the loch. The air is cold. His breath fogs the air. He is alone. Or so he thinks. The water stirs beneath him. The boat tips slightly. He grips the oar tighter. Then he sees it. The back of something massive just under the surface. Smooth, dark, moving with steady force. It passes beneath the boat. He holds his breath. The water ripples. The shadow moves on. And then silence again. He rows faster. His heart races. When he reaches shore, he does not speak of it at first, but the memory stays. When he does tell the others, they listen. Some nod, some laugh, but the story stays. And so Loch Ness Origins expands. The sea monster secrets gain another witness, another heartbeat. This is how legends endure. Each account, no matter how uncertain, adds weight to the mystery, until the mystery itself feels more real than truth. The plesiosaur in Loch Ness may never be proven, but it may never need to be, for the purpose of the legend is not proof. It is wonder. It is the human need to believe that the past still breathes, that ancient time has not fully left us, that in dark waters the line between history and myth is thin. This is why people return again and again. They bring cameras. They bring sonar. They bring drones. But also they bring hope. Hope that they will glimpse the impossible, that they will see the neck rise, the ripple spread, the shadow move, even if just for a second. That second would be enough. Enough to tell the world. Enough to join the chain of witnesses. Enough to make the heart race in the silence of night. The sea monster secrets would whisper louder. Loch Ness Origins would feel alive again. And so the search continues. The lake waits. The mist drifts. And beneath it all, the unknown moves unseen. Always near. Always hidden. Always waiting. The search for the truth behind Loch Ness has always drawn scientists and dreamers alike. In the early 20th century, expeditions began with cameras pointed at the water. Photographs emerged, showing ripples and shapes. Some were proven false. Others remained unexplained. The mystery deepened. Later, sonar scans revealed moving objects larger than any known fish. Shapes appeared on the screens, then vanished into the depths. Some said they were schools of fish. Others believed they were the living shadows of something greater. The debate never ended. Sea monster secrets grew with every new report. Loch Ness Origins gained new chapters each time a witness spoke. Fossils of plesiosaurs tell us what these creatures once were. The bones show long necks, strong flippers, and jaws of predators. Yet fossils are silent about survival. They tell us that the creatures lived. They do not tell us that they died. This silence leaves room for possibility. Possibility fuels imagination, and imagination fuels legends. Some paleontologists argue that freshwater lakes could never support such a beast. The food chain would collapse. The climate is too cold. But others point to adaptability. Creatures can evolve. They can change their diet, their habits, their shape. If even one lineage of plesiosaurs found a hidden refuge, perhaps they endured. Perhaps Loch Ness became their sanctuary. Consider how many times the lake has been watched. How many hours of patience spent by researchers. Each time the water refuses to give answers. Instead, it offers questions, and questions are more powerful than facts, for questions live longer in the mind. They echo in the dark. They whisper in the quiet. They become the sea monster secrets. Imagine now a quiet night decades ago. A research team floats on the loch with their instruments. The air is cold and heavy. The mist clings to the water. Their sonar hums softly. For hours, nothing moves. Then suddenly, a massive form crosses the screen. It is not a rock. It is not a school of fish. It is large, solid, alive. The researchers stare in silence. The form disappears. The water is still. They record the reading. They debate what it means. Some believe. Some doubt. But none can forget. That night joins the chain of mystery. Loch Ness Origins takes another step into the unknown. Another story to keep the legend alive. The sea monster secrets whisper again. Now think of the tourists who come year after year. They stand at the shore with binoculars. They take photographs. They wait for hours. Most see nothing. Some see ripples. A few claim to see the neck rise for a moment. Each claim fuels the fire. Each ripple keeps the dream alive. Skeptics laugh, but the story grows stronger. For belief is not weakened by doubt. It is sharpened. The contrast between faith and reason is the heartbeat of the legend. Without doubt, there is no mystery. Without mystery, there is no legend. This is why Loch Ness never loses its power. The hills hold the silence. The water hides the truth. The people keep the story. And the sea monster secrets remain. Imagine yourself on a boat in the middle of the loch. The night is deep. The lantern glows faintly. The water reflects the mist. Suddenly you hear a sound. A splash. A ripple moving outward. You lean over the edge. At first nothing. Then a shadow. A curve rising. A neck breaking the surface. For one heartbeat you see it. Long, dark, smooth, alive. Then it is gone. The water closes. The silence returns. But your heart is changed. You know what you saw. You know what you felt. You cannot prove it, but you cannot deny it. This is the power of Loch Ness Origins. This is the breath of the sea monster secrets. It is not about proof. It is about wonder. It is about the need to believe that the past has not ended, that the creatures of ancient seas might still swim among us, that the unknown waits just below the surface. And so the story continues. Each generation adds new voices. Each night adds new ripples. Each silence adds new weight. The loch holds its secrets. The people hold their dreams. And between them the legend breathes. Always alive. Always waiting. Always near. Legends thrive when silence refuses to answer. In the highlands silence is heavy. It lingers in the valleys. It hovers over the loch. It waits in the mist. People fill this silence with stories. They tell of humps moving across the surface, of wakes without boats, of shadows beneath the waves. Some swear they saw eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. Others insist they heard a low sound like a breath rising from the deep. These stories shape Loch Ness Origins. They weave together to form sea monster secrets, and they grow stronger with each retelling. Scientists arrive with notebooks and instruments. They ask questions. They measure. They test. They search for logic where others see wonder. Some conclude the sightings are illusions, waves shaped by wind, logs drifting, deer swimming across the water. Yet even they admit the reports are persistent. Too many voices across too many years. Too many details repeated again and again. The long neck, the dark skin, the silent movement. These are not random. They are consistent. They suggest something real, something hidden, something ancient. The debate keeps the mystery alive. If all agreed, it would fade. But disagreement feeds the legend. Each skeptic sharpens each believer. Each believer strengthens each skeptic. And Loch Ness remains the stage. The loch itself is vast, over 30 kilometers long, more than 200 meters deep, dark with peat-stained water. It swallows light. It hides everything. A perfect place for a secret. A perfect place for a survivor from another age. Imagine a storm sweeping across the loch one night. The wind howls. The rain lashes down. Waves crash against the shore. In the middle of this chaos, a boat drifts. Its lantern swings. The crew huddles together. Suddenly, a massive shape rises beside them. A neck, a head, a body rolling with the waves. The storm hides its features, but its size is clear. Larger than any creature they know. It moves once, twice, then it sinks again. The storm swallows it. The crew is left in shock. When they reach land, they tell their story. Some laugh, some nod. But the tale is added to the chain. The sea monster secrets grow. Loch Ness Origins gains another chapter. For centuries, this pattern repeats. Silence, then story, skepticism, then belief. The cycle never ends. And that is why the legend endures. The plesiosaur becomes more than fossil. It becomes symbol. Symbol of wonder. Symbol of possibility. It is the reminder that the world is not fully known, that mysteries remain, that even in a modern age, some questions have no answers. People return to the loch seeking these questions. Some come with cameras, some with sonar, some with only hope. All leave with the same silence. Yet that silence is enough. For silence lets the imagination breathe. In that breath, the creature rises again, long neck curving above the mist, eyes shining faintly, body slipping below without sound. This is the rhythm of the legend. This is the heartbeat of the sea monster secrets. Loch Ness Origins is not solved. It is lived in each ripple, in each whisper, in each dream before sleep. The loch remains a mirror for the human soul. We search its waters not only for monsters, but for proof that magic still lingers in the world, that the past still breathes, that the unknown still waits. And so the story continues, stronger than fact, larger than doubt, carried by silence, sustained by wonder, endless. During the day, Loch Ness looks calm. The surface glimmers under the pale light. Birds drift above. Boats cross slowly. Tourists walk along the shore. They take pictures. They smile. To them, it is only a lake. Yet even in daylight, there is a weight. A silence beneath the sounds. A feeling that the water hides more than it shows. As the sun sets, the mood changes. Shadows grow long across the hills. The mist begins to gather. The water darkens. The loch becomes a mirror for the night. It is then that stories come alive. It is then that sea monster secrets whisper. It is then that Loch Ness Origins feels close. Villagers retreat indoors. Fires glow in windows. Children ask about the creature. Parents tell stories once told to them. The cycle repeats. Wonder passes through generations. And the loch listens in silence. Some say the creature moves more often at dusk. The change between light and dark is its time. It glides near the surface unseen. Only the ripple remains. Only the wake across the still water. Fishermen claim to have seen it then. A neck rising in the fading light. A hump rolling with the mist. Always distant, always brief, yet always unforgettable. Imagine a traveler walking along the shore one evening. He stops to rest. The mist thickens. The water ripples. Slowly a shape emerges. Long and curved. The traveler freezes, heart racing. The shape turns. A faint glimmer of eyes meets his gaze. Then it vanishes without a sound. He stands alone again, unsure of what he saw, but certain it was real. That night his voice adds to the chain. Another chapter for Loch Ness origins. Another whisper for the sea monster secrets. Science will call it illusion. Memory will call it truth. The loch remains silent. This silence fuels the legend. It has done so for centuries. Researchers arrive again and again. They bring instruments. They bring technology. Yet the water swallows their answers. Cameras blur. Sonar flickers. Drones lose signal. The loch keeps its secrets. And people keep returning. For the unknown has its own gravity. It pulls at the heart. It demands attention. Even skeptics feel it when they stand on the shore. The weight of possibility. The breath of the legend. The sense that the past still moves here. Consider how many nights have passed with eyes on the water. How many stories told by firelight. How many ripples, mistaken or true. Each one builds the sea monster secrets. Each one strengthens Loch Ness origins. The creature becomes more than flesh. It becomes memory. It becomes symbol. Symbol of survival. Symbol of mystery. A symbol of the boundary between dream and reality. Imagine a night storm. The wind shakes the trees. Rain lashes the hills. Waves rise across the loch. In the storm, a fisherman rows. His boat rocks violently. Suddenly, he sees it. A massive shape rolling with the waves. A long neck rising high. A body half hidden. The creature moves effortlessly through the storm. While he struggles, it glides. Then it sinks again. The storm closes. He rows to shore, trembling. He tells no one at first, but the image never leaves him. Later he speaks, and the legend grows. For each voice is another stone in the wall, another echo in the mist, another step in Loch Ness origins, another note in the song of the sea monster secrets. This is how legends survive. Not through proof, but through persistence, through repetition, through silence filled with wonder. The creature may never be proven. It may never be caught. Yet it is real in the minds of those who believe. It swims in imagination. It glides through dreams. It rests in the silence of the loch, always unseen, always near. And so the story of part 3 begins. A story not of certainty, but of shadows. Not of answers, but of questions. A story of sea monster secrets. A story of Loch Ness origins. The legend breathes. The silence holds. The journey continues. Stories of Loch Ness are not only told in the Highlands. They have travelled across the world. Newspapers once printed headlines of strange photographs. Tourists arrived with curiosity. Scholars debated the possibility. Children read books filled with drawings of long-necked monsters rising from the mist. Each story adds to the sea monster secrets. Each retelling strengthens the aura of Loch Ness origins. In villages near the water, the creature is more than a tale. It is part of identity. Festivals are held. Songs are sung. Symbols of the monster appear in shops and signs. For them, Nessie is both legend and neighbor. They protect the story. They nurture it. For mystery draws people, and people bring life to the land. Scientists continue their work. They measure the depth. They study the fish. They map the currents. Some declare the lake cannot support such a large predator. The ecosystem is too small, the food chain too fragile. Yet others argue that adaptation is possible. A creature that survived millions of years could survive here too, by eating differently, by moving rarely, by hiding in the depths. The arguments clash, but the mystery remains untouched. For each study, there is another sighting. For each doubt, another story. The balance never ends. The legend breathes between science and faith. Imagine one evening when a group of young travelers camp near the shore. They laugh around a fire. They share food. They tell stories of Nessie. The mist rises. The water is calm. Then a sound. A ripple moves outward. They fall silent. From the water a shape rises, long and slender. The head tilts as if watching. The firelight reflects faintly on wet skin. For a heartbeat the travelers cannot move. Then the shape sinks again. The water closes. The night returns to silence. They look at one another. They whisper what they saw. Their voices tremble. They know it was real. That night becomes part of Loch Ness origins. Another whisper in the chain of sea monster secrets. When they return home, they tell others. Some believe. Some laugh. But the story lives. This is the way the mystery grows. Not through proof, but through persistence. Through the rhythm of silence and voice. Through the power of imagination. Skeptics will say it was a log, a wave, a trick of light. Believers will say it was Nessie. The truth lies hidden beneath the water. The loch keeps it safe. And so both sides remain, locked in endless debate, each side strengthening the other. This tension is the lifeblood of the legend. Without doubt, the story fades. Without belief, the story dies. With both, the story thrives. Sea monster secrets live in this balance. Loch Ness origins breathes in this silence. Consider the loch itself at night. The hills dark. The sky filled with faint stars. The water black. The mist drifting low. Every sound magnified. Every ripple significant. To stand at the edge is to feel the weight of history, to feel the possibility of the unknown, to sense the creature even if unseen. The mind paints the image, the heart feels the presence, the breath slows, the silence deepens, and in that silence the legend stirs again. The plesiosaur glides through imagination, its neck rising, its body vanishing, its eyes watching from the dark, always near, always hidden, always waiting. This is the rhythm of the loch. This is the song of the mystery. The sea monster secrets remain. The Loch Ness origins continue. The story has no end, for the unknown never dies. It only waits in silence. Night settles over the highlands. The loch lies still and dark. The hills stand silent like ancient guardians. The mist thickens across the water. In that silence, the legend breathes. For centuries, people have stood here. They have stared into the darkness. They have wondered what waits below. Some see ripples. Some see shadows. A few claim to see the long neck rise. Each voice joins the chain of memory. Each story becomes part of the sea monster secrets. Each whisper strengthens Loch Ness origins. Scientists return again and again. They set up equipment. They scan the depths. They record data. Each time they find only fragments. A blur on sonar. A ripple in the mist. A story told in fear or awe. Never enough to prove. Never enough to erase. This balance keeps the mystery alive. Imagine one particular night. A research boat drifts in the center of the loch. The crew waits in silence. Their instruments hum softly. Hours pass. The water remains calm. Then suddenly the boat shifts. Something moves below. The sonar screen lights with a massive form. Large, solid, alive. The crew freezes. They watch as the shape glides across the screen. Then it vanishes. The water calms. The night falls silent again. They look at each other. They know what they saw, yet they cannot prove it. Another fragment of mystery. Another chapter for Loch Ness origins. Another echo of the sea monster secrets. When they return to shore, they debate. Some argue it was error. Others swear it was real. The story spreads. The legend grows. This is how the loch survives. Through silence, through fragments, through whispers. Each ripple becomes eternal. Each shadow becomes history. The creature remains unseen. Yet it is always near, always present in imagination, always alive in memory. Villagers tell their children. Travelers tell their friends. Writers tell the world. The loch becomes more than water. It becomes a mirror for the unknown, a stage where belief and doubt play forever. The plesiosaur glides through this stage, a ghost of prehistory, a survivor in story, a predator in dream. Sea monster secrets hold it close. Loch Ness origins give it voice. And so the cycle never ends. Imagine now a storm breaking across the loch. Thunder rolls, lightning flashes, rain lashes the water, waves crash against the shore. In the chaos, a fisherman rows desperately. His boat sways. He grips the oars tight. Then from the waves a neck rises, tall, dark, moving with the storm. The creature glides effortlessly while the man struggles. Eyes glimmer in the lightning. For one heartbeat they meet. Then the creature sinks again. The storm closes. The man survives, but his memory changes forever. He tells no one for days. Then at last he speaks. The villagers listen. Some doubt. Some believe. But the story is added to the chain. Loch Ness origins expands. The sea monster secrets deepen. This is the way legends live. Not in proof, but in persistence. Not in certainty, but in wonder. The loch holds its silence. The people hold their stories. Between them, the creature breathes. Always hidden. Always present. Always waiting. And so part 3 closes. With silence. With shadows. With questions. The journey continues. The legend endures. Sea monster secrets remain. Loch Ness origins lives on. Through the centuries, Loch Ness has remained a place of wonder. Long before modern cameras and sonar, the people of the highlands told stories. Monks wrote of water beasts in rivers and lakes. Travelers spoke of strange shapes moving through the mist. Fishermen whispered of sudden waves rocking their boats. These voices form the oldest layer of the sea monster secrets. They are the roots of Loch Ness origins. In ancient times, the loch was already mysterious, its depth unknown, its darkness complete. People feared what they could not see. They filled the silence with stories. Stories of serpents, stories of giants, stories of beasts that came from the sea. The plesiosaur had no name then, yet its shadow was present, a long-necked form slipping through the imagination, a powerful body gliding unseen. The people described what they felt, the sense of being watched from the water, the feeling of something vast moving below. Even when nothing appeared, the silence was heavy. It pressed upon the heart. It whispered possibilities. This is how legends begin, not from proof, but from presence, from silence, from imagination. Over time, the stories grew. They spread through villages and valleys. Each generation added its own voice. Some told of humps rising like islands, others of eyes gleaming in moonlight. Always the same pattern, brief, mysterious, unexplained. Always the same result: wonder, fear, belief. These stories traveled across Scotland. They became part of the land, part of its soul. They reached beyond. They entered books. They entered songs. They entered dreams. The sea monster secrets expanded. Loch Ness origins became timeless. As centuries passed, the world changed. Kingdoms rose and fell. Wars burned and ended. Machines replaced horses. Cities grew. Yet the loch remained the same, dark, silent, watching, holding its secret. While the world moved fast, the loch moved slow. Its mystery endured. People from far away began to hear. They came to see. They stood at the shore and stared into the mist. Some left with silence, some with stories, all left with wonder. The legend grew global. Photographs appeared in newspapers. Some showed ripples, some showed humps, some showed long necks above the water. Many were doubted, some exposed as hoaxes. Yet even the false ones kept the story alive, for they proved something deeper, that people wanted to believe, that people needed the legend. Science entered with instruments. Sonar scanned the depths. Cameras lined the shores. Expeditions crossed the water. Each found fragments, shapes, shadows, blurs. Never enough to prove, never enough to erase. This balance kept the story breathing, for the sea monster secrets thrive in uncertainty. Loch Ness origins live in silence. Consider now a quiet evening long ago. A shepherd walks along the shore. The mist is heavy. He hears a sound like rushing water, though the surface is still. He stops, he waits. Suddenly a neck rises, long and curved. The head tilts. The eyes glimmer faintly. The shepherd freezes. For a heartbeat, time stops. Then the creature sinks again. The water closes. The mist returns. The shepherd walks home in silence. He tells his family. They tell the village. The story spreads. Another voice in the chain. Another link in the mystery. Another step in Loch Ness origins. Another layer of the sea monster secrets. This is the rhythm of the legend. Silence, then story, doubt, then belief. Always balanced, always alive. This is why Loch Ness endures, why people return, why the mystery never dies. For the creature may never be proven, but it is always present. In imagination, in memory, in silence, in dream. And so the first step of part 4 begins. With history, with stories, with whispers, the journey continues. The legend breathes. The sea monster secrets remain. Loch Ness origins endure. In the modern age, the legend of Loch Ness has only grown stronger. Newspapers in the 20th century printed photographs that traveled across the world. The famous image of a long neck above the water became a symbol. Some called it proof. Others called it fraud. Yet it mattered little. The story spread faster than ever. People came from faraway lands. They stood at the shore with cameras ready. They waited in silence, hoping for a glimpse. Most saw only mist. Some saw ripples. A few swore they saw the neck rise and fall. Each voice added another thread. The sea monster secrets expanded. Loch Ness origins deepened. Scientists organized expeditions. Boats crossed the loch with sonar equipment. They mapped the depths. They searched every shadow. They recorded strange readings, large moving shapes that appeared then vanished. Some explained them as schools of fish, others as technical errors, but many believed they were glimpses of something alive. The debate never ended. Skeptics demanded bones or bodies. Believers pointed to patterns, the same shapes, the same movements, the same silence after. This tension gave the legend strength. Without proof, it could not be killed. Without certainty, it could not be solved. And so it endured. Imagine one of those expeditions. A research boat moves slowly across the dark water. The night is quiet, the mist heavy. The sonar hums. Hours pass without result. Then suddenly the screen lights. A shape larger than the boat itself moves beneath, solid, smooth, alive. The crew gasps. They watch as the form glides across the display. Then it vanishes into the depth. The water above remains calm. They search again. Nothing, only silence. When they return to shore, they share the reading. The world debates. Some laugh, some believe, but all are reminded of the mystery. Another chapter for Loch Ness origins. Another whisper of the sea monster secrets. Tourists continue to arrive. They fill hotels. They walk the shores. They ride boats hoping for a glimpse. Many leave with only stories of mist and silence. But even silence is powerful. Silence leaves room for imagination. And imagination paints the creature again and again. A long neck curving above the waves. A dark hump rolling beneath. Eyes watching from the fog. The creature becomes more alive in silence than it ever could in proof. This is the paradox of the legend. Proof would end the story. Silence keeps it eternal. That is why the loch never speaks. It only whispers. It only ripples. It only teases, and people return. Year after year, decade after decade, the sea monster secrets remain. Loch Ness origins live on. Consider a night when a group of campers sleep near the shore. The fire has gone out. The mist drifts low. One awakens. He hears a sound, a splash. He rises quietly. He walks to the edge. The water is dark. Then a shape rises, long, smooth, moving slowly. The neck lifts above the mist. The eyes gleam faintly. For a moment the camper forgets to breathe. Then the shape sinks again. The water calms. The silence returns. He stands frozen. Then he runs to wake the others. They rush to the shore, but see only mist. They doubt. They laugh. But he knows. He knows what he saw. Another witness for the chain. Another thread for the story. Another echo for Loch Ness origins. Another whisper of the sea monster secrets. This is how the mystery grows. Not from certainty, but from silence. Not from answers, but from questions. The loch gives no proof. Only presence. Only shadow. Only dream. And so the story continues. The legend breathes. The silence endures. The journey moves on. The legend of Loch Ness survives because it lives between belief and doubt. Too much belief would demand proof. Too much doubt would kill the story. But the balance remains. And in that balance, the creature breathes. Villagers speak of Nessie with pride. They see the monster not as fear, but as symbol. A guardian of their land. A source of wonder. A reminder that the world is still mysterious. Tourists bring questions. Scientists bring instruments. Writers bring words. Each adds another layer. The sea monster secrets grow thicker. Loch Ness origins grow deeper. Skeptics argue the sightings are illusions. They explain the ripples as waves, the humps as logs, the shadows as fish. Believers argue with equal strength. They point to centuries of stories, to consistent details, to the silence that never breaks. Both sides feed the legend. Both sides keep it alive. For a legend that is fully solved is no longer a legend, and Loch Ness cannot be solved. It can only be experienced. Imagine one night when a storm clears suddenly. The clouds part. The moon shines on the loch. The water glimmers faintly. A family stands at the shore. They whisper to one another. Then they see it. A ripple moving against the wind. A shape breaking the surface. A neck rising high. Smooth and dark. The head tilts as if watching. The family freezes. The children cling to their parents. Then the creature sinks again. The water calms. The silence returns. The family breathes again. They speak of it for years. The story becomes part of their lives. It becomes part of Loch Ness origins. Another voice in the sea monster secrets. Another layer in the chain. Science may not believe them, but belief is not required. The power of the legend is not in proof. It is in presence, in silence, in memory. Researchers continue their scans. They capture shapes. They capture ripples. They capture echoes. But they never capture certainty. And that is why the mystery endures. The creature remains unseen, yet always near. Always alive in imagination, always present in silence. Consider the loch itself, over 30 kilometers long, more than 200 meters deep, dark with peat-stained water. Light cannot penetrate. Shadows rule the depths. This is the perfect stage for legend. A place where truth can hide. A place where imagination can breathe. A place where silence speaks louder than sound. The sea monster secrets thrive here. Loch Ness origins find roots here. Every traveler who comes adds another whisper. Every child who dreams adds another voice. Every skeptic who doubts adds another shadow. Together they keep the creature alive. Together they ensure the story will never fade. Imagine now the loch at midnight. The mist thick, the stars faint, the hills silent. In the distance a ripple moves, slow, steady, a shape rises. Long neck, small head, dark body rolling just beneath. For a moment it is there, then it is gone. The water closes. The mist returns. The night holds its breath. This is the rhythm of Loch Ness. Silence, then shadow, then silence again. This is the way legends live. This is the way sea monster secrets endure. This is the path of Loch Ness origins, endless, mysterious, eternal. The modern explorer arrives at Loch Ness with hope. He carries cameras. He carries sonar. He carries the weight of history. He has read the stories. He has studied the fossils. He has listened to the voices of villagers and travelers. He knows the legend of the plesiosaur. He knows the power of sea monster secrets. He knows the silence of Loch Ness origins. He sets his equipment on the boat. He looks across the dark water. The mist drifts low. The hills stand still. The surface is calm. Yet beneath lies the unknown. The boat moves slowly across the loch. The sonar hums. The screen glows. Hours pass. Nothing appears. The water is silent. The crew grows weary. Then suddenly a shape moves across the screen. Large, solid, alive. It glides, then vanishes. The explorer leans forward. His heart pounds. He marks the spot. He scans again. Nothing. Only silence. But silence can be enough. Silence can be proof. For silence leaves space for imagination. The crew whispers among themselves. Was it real? Was it error? They do not know. But the story grows. Another fragment added to the sea monster secrets. Another echo in Loch Ness origins. The explorer returns to shore. He shares the reading. The world debates. Some laugh. Some believe. But all remember. The legend grows stronger. The loch grows deeper. Consider how technology has changed. Drones fly above. Submersibles dive below. Satellites scan from the sky. Yet the creature remains unseen. The water hides its truth. The silence holds its secret. The balance remains. Skeptics demand evidence. Believers accept mystery. Both sides keep the story alive. For without questions there can be no legend. Without silence there can be no wonder. Imagine a night after the expedition. The explorer walks alone by the shore. The moon is hidden. The mist thick. The water calm. Then a ripple moves outward. He stops. He waits. Slowly a shape rises. A neck. A head. Dark against the mist. It turns. It watches. For a breathless moment they share silence. Then it sinks again. The loch closes. The night breathes. The explorer stands frozen. He knows what he saw. He cannot prove it, but he cannot forget. He becomes part of the legend. His voice joins the chain. His memory feeds the sea monster secrets. His silence deepens Loch Ness origins. This is how the mystery endures. Through voices, through silence, through wonder. The loch does not reveal itself fully. It offers glimpses, shadows, ripples, just enough to keep belief alive, just enough to keep doubt alive. This tension is eternal. This is why people return, year after year, generation after generation. They come with tools. They come with stories. They come with dreams. And they leave with silence. But silence is enough. Silence is everything. For silence is the heartbeat of the legend. Silence is the breath of the sea monster secrets. Silence is the soul of Loch Ness origins. And so part 5 begins. With explorers, with technology, with questions, with shadows, with silence, with wonder. The journey continues. The legend breathes. The story endures. People return to Loch Ness, not only for the water, but for what it represents. The loch is more than geography. It is a mirror for human imagination. It reflects the hunger for mystery, the need for wonder, the desire to believe that not all is known, that something still waits in the shadows. This is the psychology of the legend. Sea monster secrets are not only about a creature. They are about belief, about doubt, about the balance between them. Believers see patterns. Skeptics see illusions. Yet both are drawn to the loch, for the silence calls to all. The silence holds possibility. The silence breathes mystery. Consider the villagers who live near the shore. For them, the creature is part of daily life. They grow up hearing stories. They watch tourists arrive with questions. They see scientists arrive with instruments. Yet the loch remains the same. Dark, silent, mysterious. The villagers smile. They know the loch will never give all its answers. They know the legend will always live. They are proud of this, for it makes their home unique. Imagine a traveler who visits for the first time. He has read the books. He has seen the photos. He has listened to the debates. He comes with skepticism. He expects nothing. Yet when he stands by the water at night, he feels something. The silence is heavy. The mist drifts low. The water is black. He stares into the darkness. His heart slows. His breath deepens. He feels watched. He sees nothing, yet he feels presence. A ripple moves across the surface. His doubt softens. His curiosity grows. He whispers to himself the words sea monster secrets. He imagines the creature gliding below. He imagines Loch Ness origins breathing through the silence. He returns home, uncertain, yet changed. He tells others. Some laugh, some listen, but the story continues. This is how the legend grows. Through silence, through presence, through imagination. Scientists argue that the human mind seeks patterns, that people see shapes where none exist, that the brain creates monsters in the mist. They are right, yet they miss the deeper truth, that these patterns give meaning, that these shapes feed wonder, that imagination is as real as bone, that belief shapes reality. And so even skepticism strengthens the legend. For every doubt creates contrast, and contrast creates power. Without skeptics, there would be no debate. Without debate, there would be no story. Without story, there would be no Nessie. This is the circle of the myth, endless, balanced, alive. Imagine now a night of heavy fog. A small group of researchers waits in a boat. The sonar hums. The water is calm. Hours pass. The fog grows thicker. They grow weary. Then a sound. A splash. They look out, but see only mist. Another splash. A ripple moving close. Suddenly, a shape rises. Long neck, small head, wet skin glistening faintly. For one heartbeat, they are silent. They forget to breathe. Then the shape sinks. The water closes. The fog returns. They are left in shock. They record nothing. They capture no proof. Yet they know. Each of them knows. They debate later. Some say they imagined, some say it was real. But the story enters their lives. They tell others, and the chain grows longer. Another whisper in the sea monster secrets. Another step in Loch Ness origins. The creature remains unseen, yet more present than ever. This is the paradox of the legend. To remain alive, it must remain hidden. To remain powerful, it must remain uncertain. Proof would kill it. Mystery keeps it eternal. And so the loch remains silent. The water hides its truth. The mist guards its secrets. The hills stand watch. People return, year after year, with doubt, with hope, with dreams, with silence. Each leaves changed. Each carries the story. Each keeps the creature alive. And so part 5 continues, with psychology, with silence, with balance, with questions, with wonder. The sea monster secrets endure. The Loch Ness origins remain. The journey moves on. Night at Loch Ness is different from any other place. The hills grow darker. The sky lowers. The mist spreads across the water like a living thing. The silence deepens until even the smallest sound feels large. In that silence, the legend waits. People stand at the shore. They whisper of shapes in the fog. They remember stories told by parents and grandparents. They imagine what moves beneath the surface. Some feel fear. Others feel wonder. All feel the weight of mystery. This is the breath of sea monster secrets. This is the voice of Loch Ness origins. Scientists record the silence with instruments. They listen for echoes. They watch sonar screens. Sometimes they see shapes. Sometimes they see nothing. But always they feel the pull of the unknown. They cannot dismiss it. For silence has power. Silence feeds imagination. And imagination feeds the legend. Imagine one late night when the moon hides behind clouds. A group of campers lies asleep near the water. The fire has gone out. The mist grows heavy. Suddenly, one camper awakens. He hears a sound. A ripple moving across the loch. He rises and walks to the edge. The water glimmers faintly. Then he sees it. A neck rising slowly, smooth and dark. A small head turning. For a moment the world stops. The camper forgets to breathe. Then the creature sinks again. The water closes. The mist returns. He runs to wake the others. They come but see nothing. They doubt. They laugh. But he knows. He knows what he saw. His story becomes another thread in the chain. Another whisper in the sea monster secrets. Another echo of Loch Ness origins. The loch remains silent. The creature unseen. But the story grows stronger. This is the rhythm of the legend. Silence, then shadow, then silence again. Some say the human mind invents these visions, that the brain sees monsters in darkness, that fear shapes illusions. Perhaps it is true. But even illusions can live. Even illusions can breathe. For in imagination the creature swims. In memory it rises. In silence it waits. This is why the legend endures. Proof would end it. Doubt sustains it. Balance keeps it alive. And Loch Ness offers perfect balance. Deep water that hides. Mist that blinds. Silence that breathes. A stage for wonder. A home for legend. This is why travelers return. This is why researchers never stop. This is why the loch remains eternal. Consider now the loch just before dawn. The mist heavy, the water black, the hills quiet. Suddenly a ripple moves. Slowly, gently, a shape glides beneath the surface. Large, smooth, silent. Then it vanishes. The loch calms again. The dawn breaks. The world returns to light. But the memory lingers. Those who witness carry it forever. They tell others. They share the silence. They pass on the wonder, and the legend grows. The sea monster's secrets endure. The Loch Ness origins remain. The story continues without end. Always in silence. Always in mystery. Always in shadow. Loch Ness is a place where depth itself becomes mystery. The loch stretches long and narrow through the highlands. Its waters are dark with peat. Its depth reaches more than 200 meters. Light does not penetrate. Shadows rule below. This darkness invites stories. It invites wonder. It invites fear. For what the eye cannot see, the mind imagines. And the mind imagines monsters. The villagers of centuries past knew this truth. They told stories of water beasts. They whispered of shapes rising in the mist. They spoke of sudden waves that came without wind. These whispers became the sea monster's secrets. These voices formed the foundation of Loch Ness origins. As time passed, the stories grew. They spread across Scotland. They reached beyond. Travellers came. Writers wrote. Scientists debated. Yet the silence of the loch never broke. It gave no proof. It gave no denial. Only silence. Silence powerful enough to keep the legend alive. Silence strong enough to feed imagination. Science says the plesiosaur lived in oceans millions of years ago. It describes bones turned to stone, long necks, strong flippers, jaws filled with sharp teeth, a predator of the seas. Yet extinction is not always certain. Fossils show they lived. Fossils do not prove they died. This gap leaves space. Space for imagination. Space for belief. Space for Nessie. Some argue survival is impossible. The water is too cold. The food too scarce. But others argue adaptation, evolution, change. If even one survived, perhaps it learned to live differently. Perhaps it learned to hide, to emerge only rarely, to feed in silence, to wait in darkness. This is how Loch Ness origins remain possible. This is why sea monster secrets endure. Imagine standing at the shore at midnight, the mist heavy, the hills dark, the water black. You hear nothing, you see nothing, yet you feel presence, the weight of unseen eyes, the pulse of something vast below. Then a ripple, slow, gentle, spreading outward. You freeze. You wait. A shape rises, a neck long and curved, a head small against the body. The creature watches. For a moment, time holds still. Then it sinks. The water closes. The mist swallows it. Silence returns. You breathe again. You know what you saw. You cannot prove it, but you cannot deny it. Your story becomes part of the legend. Another voice for Loch Ness origins. Another whisper in the sea monster secrets. This is how the cycle continues. Each witness adds to the chain. Each skeptic sharpens the debate. Each believer fuels the fire. Together they keep the mystery alive. Scientists with sonar record shapes, large, moving, then gone. Tourists with cameras capture blurs, ripples, shadows. Villagers tell stories of generations. Children listen wide-eyed. Writers turn whispers into books. Artists paint the mist with long necks and dark eyes. All of it builds the legend. None of it proves. None of it erases. This is the balance. Proof would end it. Silence keeps it alive. Consider the loch at dawn. The mist lifts slowly. The hills glow faintly. The water is calm. Yet in the stillness there is weight. The silence heavy. The air filled with possibility. Every ripple feels important. Every shadow feels alive. The creature remains unseen, yet always present, always waiting, always near. This is the rhythm of Loch Ness. This is the breath of the sea monster secrets. This is the heartbeat of Loch Ness origins. Imagine now a storm. Rain lashes the hills. Thunder rolls. Waves crash. In the storm, a fisherman rows desperately. His boat rocks violently. Then from the waves, a massive shape rises. A neck, tall and strong. A body rolling with power. The creature glides through chaos as if born to it. Eyes glimmer in the lightning. For one heartbeat man and monster meet. Then it sinks again. The storm closes. The man survives. But his memory changes forever. He tells others. Some doubt. Some believe. But the story spreads. The legend grows. Another layer for Loch Ness origins. Another whisper for the sea monster secrets. This is why the loch endures. This is why the legend thrives. For silence cannot be disproven. Shadows cannot be erased. Memory cannot be undone. And imagination never dies. The loch holds its truth in darkness. The people hold their stories in light. Between them the creature lives. Always hidden. Always alive. Always eternal. Loch Ness is more than water. It is a stage for human imagination. It draws believers. It draws skeptics. It draws dreamers. Each comes seeking answers. Each leaves with questions. The loch gives no certainty. Only silence. And silence is enough. For silence allows stories to grow. Silence allows myths to live. Silence keeps the sea monster's secrets breathing. Silence keeps Loch Ness origins alive. Scientists bring equipment. They scan the depths with sonar. They send divers. They launch drones. Each time the readings show strange shapes, large, moving, then gone. Some dismiss them as errors. Others whisper they are glimpses of the truth. The debate continues. The legend strengthens, for proof would end the story. Doubt keeps it alive. Villagers share tales with children. They describe long necks in the mist, humps rolling across the water, eyes glowing faintly at night. These details repeat across generations. They remain constant. They add weight to the mystery. Tourists arrive with hope. They stand by the shore for hours. They ride boats across the dark water. They take photographs. Most capture nothing, yet even nothing feels like something. For the silence itself is heavy. The silence suggests presence. The silence whispers possibility. Imagine a quiet evening. The hills are dark. The mist is thick. A traveler walks along the shore. He stops to rest. He stares at the water. At first he sees only ripples, then a shape, large, smooth, rising slowly, a neck stretching upward, a head turning. For a breathless moment he feels watched. Then the creature sinks again. The water closes. The mist returns. He is left in silence. His heart races. He knows what he saw. He cannot prove it, but he cannot deny it. His story becomes part of the chain. Another whisper in the sea monster secrets. Another echo of Loch Ness origins. This is how legends endure, through silence, through memory, through imagination. Skeptics argue that the mind invents shapes, that fog and waves create illusions, that Nessie is a trick of the eye, perhaps, but even tricks can live. Even illusions can breathe, for belief makes them real. In stories, in dreams, in memory. And the loch provides the perfect stage. Its depth swallows light. Its mist hides shapes. Its silence magnifies sound. Every condition serves the legend. Every moment sustains it. Consider how many nights have passed with eyes on the loch. How many people have stared into the darkness. How many hearts have felt the same weight. This is why the story endures. Because it is shared. Because it is repeated. Because it is believed. Imagine now a stormy night. Lightning flashes across the water. Thunder shakes the hills. Waves crash against the shore. In the storm, a small boat drifts. The crew clings to the sides. Suddenly, a massive shadow rises. A neck tall and strong. A body moving with the waves. For a moment the storm reveals eyes shining. Then the creature sinks. The water swallows it. The storm closes. The crew survives. But their lives are changed. They speak of it for years. Their voices join the chain. Their memory feeds the legend. Another layer for Loch Ness origins. Another breath for the sea monster secrets. This is why the loch remains eternal, not because of proof, but because of silence, not because of certainty, but because of wonder. The creature remains unseen, yet always present, always alive, always near. The loch holds its truth. The people hold their stories. Between them, the legend breathes, and the journey continues. Loch Ness by night becomes more than a lake. It becomes a world of silence, a world of shadow, a world of endless possibility. The hills fade into darkness. The mist spreads low across the water. The stars are faint. The air is cold. And in that setting, the legend feels alive. People stand at the edge of the loch. They whisper of shapes they cannot explain. They feel eyes watching from the dark. They imagine long necks gliding just below the surface. They sense presence even when nothing appears. This is the power of the sea monster secrets. This is the breath of Loch Ness origins. Scientists have studied the loch for decades. They bring instruments. They bring sonar. They bring cameras. Each time they capture fragments, A blur, a ripple, a shape moving across a screen, then silence again. Never proof, never certainty, only mystery, and mystery is stronger than evidence. Mystery is eternal. Mystery feeds imagination. Without answers, the story grows. Without certainty, the legend breathes. Villagers accept this balance. They tell their children the stories. They describe the creature as both guardian and ghost. They see it not as threat, but as wonder, something that makes their home unique, something that connects past and present. For them, Nessie is part of life. Tourists arrive with excitement. They wait by the shore. They ride boats. They take photographs. Most see nothing, but even nothing feels powerful, for the silence is heavy. The silence whispers presence. The silence breathes possibility. Imagine now a quiet midnight. A lone traveler walks the shore. The mist is thick, the water black. He hears a sound, a ripple moving outward. He stops, he watches. Slowly a shape rises. A long neck, a small head, smooth skin glistening faintly. The creature turns as if watching. For a breathless moment, the traveler feels frozen. Then it sinks again. The water closes. The mist returns. The silence deepens. The traveler knows what he saw. He cannot prove it, but he cannot forget it. His memory becomes another thread in the chain, another whisper in the sea monster secrets, another echo of Loch Ness origins. This is how the legend survives, not in proof, but in presence, not in certainty, but in silence. Skeptics will say he imagined it, that the mist and waves created illusion. Perhaps, but even illusion can breathe. Even illusion can live in memory. For what the heart believes becomes real in story, and stories are what keep legends alive. Consider how many voices have spoken of Nessie, how many centuries have passed with whispers, how many nights have been filled with silence. This is why the legend endures, because it is shared, because it is repeated, because it is believed. The loch gives nothing certain, yet it gives everything needed: darkness, silence, depth, mist. A perfect stage for mystery, a perfect home for legend. Imagine now a storm rolling over the water. Lightning flashes, thunder shakes the hills, waves crash. In the chaos, a fisherman rows desperately. Suddenly, a massive shadow rises beside him. A neck, tall and strong. Eyes glimmer in the lightning. The creature moves with ease while he struggles. For one heartbeat they meet, then it sinks. The storm closes. The fisherman survives, but his memory changes forever. He tells others. Some doubt, some believe, but the story grows. Another echo in the sea monster secrets. Another step in Loch Ness origins. This is the rhythm of the legend. Silence, then shadow, then silence again. It has no end. It has no beginning. It is eternal. The loch holds its secrets. The people hold their stories. Between them, the creature breathes. Always hidden, always alive, always waiting. Loch Ness is more than a body of water. It has become a symbol for the unknown, a mirror for human imagination, a place where science meets myth and neither wins. For centuries, people have come here searching. They bring instruments, they bring cameras, they bring questions, but the loch offers only silence. silence that hides, silence that whispers, silence that feeds the legend. This silence is the breath of the sea monster secrets. This silence is the voice of Loch Ness origins. People speak of Nessie across the world, in books, in films, in songs. The creature has become part of culture. Children draw long-necked monsters in school. Tourists buy souvenirs shaped like humps. The legend lives in art as much as in water, yet it remains tied to the loch. Without the dark water, the story would fade. Without the mist, the creature would lose its stage. The loch and the monster are one, inseparable, eternal. Scientists continue their studies. They map the floor of the loch. They measure its depth. They count the fish. They test the currents. Some conclude survival is impossible. Too little food, too cold, too isolated. But others say possibility remains. Evolution adapts. Survival finds a way. If even one creature endured, perhaps it hides here. In darkness, in silence, waiting. Believers point to the consistency of stories. The long neck, the rolling humps, the sudden silence after, too many accounts across too many years. Details repeated again and again. This is not chance, they say. This is memory. This is truth. Skeptics dismiss it as imagination. They say the mind creates shapes in mist. That fear makes illusions. That hope makes monsters. But even skeptics are drawn to the loch. They cannot resist the weight of its silence. They cannot deny the power of its mystery. Imagine standing at the shore at midnight, the mist thick, the stars faint, the hills dark, the water still. Suddenly, a ripple moves, slow, wide. A shape glides beneath the surface. Then a neck rises, long, curved, smooth. The creature turns. Eyes glimmer faintly. For one heartbeat time holds still. Then it sinks. The water closes. The mist returns. The silence deepens. You stand frozen. You know what you saw. You cannot prove it. But you cannot deny it. Your story becomes part of the chain. Another voice in the sea monster secrets. Another echo of Loch Ness origins. This is how legends live. Not through proof, but through persistence. Through memory. Through imagination. The loch gives nothing certain, yet it gives everything needed. Darkness, silence, depth, mist. A stage for wonder. A home for mystery. Consider the fishermen who row across the loch. They speak of sudden waves, of unseen forces rocking their boats, of shadows passing below. They know the water hides something vast. They feel it even when unseen. They tell their stories to others, and the chain grows longer. Imagine now a storm rolling across the highlands. Lightning cracks, thunder shakes the hills, rain lashes the water. In the chaos, a boat drifts. The crew clings tight. Suddenly, a massive shape rises beside them. A long neck sways. Eyes shine in the lightning. The creature glides effortlessly through the storm. Then it sinks again. The waves close. The storm rages on. The crew survives. But their memory burns forever. They speak of it for years. Some doubt, some believe, but the legend grows. Another layer for Loch Ness origins, another breath for the sea monster secrets. This is the rhythm of the story. Silence, then shadow, then silence again. It has no end. It has no beginning. It is eternal. The loch holds its truth. The people hold their stories. Between them, the creature breathes, always unseen, always alive, always waiting. Loch Ness has become a bridge between legend and life. It draws not only scientists and explorers, but also families and travelers. They come from every part of the world. They stand on the shore. They ride boats across the dark water. They wait in silence. Some leave with photographs. Some leave with stories. All leave with wonder. The loch offers no proof, yet it offers something greater. The experience of mystery, the feeling of possibility. This is why people return again and again. The sea monster secrets are not about bones or evidence. They are about belief. They are about silence. They are about the weight of imagination. The Loch Ness origins are not about fossils. They are about memory, about whispers passed down through generations. Villagers know this well. They speak of Nessie with affection. They tell their children bedtime stories of a gentle giant gliding through the water. They paint pictures. They carve figures. The monster becomes part of culture, part of identity. Tourists buy souvenirs shaped like humps. Restaurants name dishes after Nessie. The legend becomes economy as well as myth. Yet even with this playful side, the mystery remains serious. The loch itself resists explanation. Its depth swallows light. Its silence defies answers. Each expedition ends with more questions. Each sighting adds to the chain. This is the rhythm of the legend. Silence, then story, then silence again. Skeptics laugh. Believers nod. Both keep the tale alive. Imagine now a summer evening. Families walk along the shore. Children point at the water. They laugh and shout. The sun sets slowly. The mist begins to rise. The voices fade. The water grows still. Suddenly, a ripple moves across the surface, wide, smooth. A shadow glides below. For a moment, a long neck breaks the water. It turns. It glimmers in the fading light. Then it sinks again. The water closes. The mist thickens. The families stare in silence. Some believe. Some doubt. But all remember. They speak of it later. The story spreads again. Another layer for Loch Ness origins. Another whisper for the sea monster secrets. Science may dismiss it, but belief is not bound by science. Belief lives in memory. Belief lives in imagination. Belief lives in silence. And silence is what the loch gives. Darkness, depth, mist. A stage 4 endless wonder. This is why the legend endures. This is why Nessie lives on. In art, in books, in dreams, in whispers around fires, in quiet nights before sleep. The creature is more than myth. It is symbol. Symbol of what we do not know. Symbol of what we still hope to find. The sea monster secrets breathe through this symbol. Loch Ness origins deepen through this silence. Imagine again a night storm. Thunder rolls. Lightning flashes. Rain lashes the water. In the chaos, a fisherman rows desperately. His boat sways. Suddenly, a shape rises beside him. A neck tall and curved. Eyes shining in the lightning. The creature glides effortlessly while he struggles. Then it sinks. The storm closes. The fisherman survives. But his voice joins the chain. His story feeds the legend. Another echo in Loch Ness origins. Another breath in the sea monster secrets. This is the way the story grows. Through silence, through wonder, through repetition, endless, eternal, always near, always waiting. Loch Ness holds a mystery that feels endless. Each generation comes with new eyes. Each leaves with the same silence. The loch does not change. It remains deep, dark, mist-covered, silent. Yet within that silence, imagination thrives. This is the heart of the sea monster secret. This is the soul of Loch Ness origins. Believers find hope in the ripples. Skeptics find illusions in the mist. Yet both are captivated. Both return. Both add to the legend. For the story is not about proof. It is about presence. It is about the weight of the unknown. The creature becomes a symbol of mystery itself, a guardian of wonder, a keeper of silence. Villagers pass stories to children. Travelers bring stories home. Writers turn whispers into books. Filmmakers capture shadows on screen. Artists paint long necks rising through fog. Each act keeps the creature alive, not in flesh, but in memory, not in bone, but in imagination. This is why the legend survives. It feeds on silence. It breathes through questions. It lives in the gap between science and dream. Scientists return with instruments. They measure, they scan, they record. Each time they find shapes too large to explain. Each time they find silence too heavy to dismiss. They debate, they argue. But the loch offers no answer, only mystery. And mystery is enough. Imagine now a moonlit night. The loch glimmers faintly. The mist drifts low. A traveler sits by the shore. He stares at the water. Suddenly a ripple moves. Slow, wide. A shape rises. A long neck. A small head. Eyes glimmering faintly. The traveler freezes. Time holds still. Then the creature sinks again. The water closes. The mist thickens. The silence deepens. The traveler knows what he saw. He cannot prove it, but he cannot forget. His voice joins the chain. Another thread in the sea monster secrets. Another echo in Loch Ness origins. This is how the story grows. Through silence, through memory, through imagination. Consider the storm that rolls across the loch. Lightning cracks. Thunder shakes the hills. Waves crash. In the chaos, a shadow rises. A neck sways. Eyes shine. The creature glides effortlessly while men struggle. Then it sinks. The storm closes. The night breathes again. Survivors tell their story. Some believe. Some doubt. But the legend strengthens. This rhythm repeats across centuries. Silence, then shadow, then silence again. The loch gives nothing certain, yet it gives everything needed. A perfect stage for mystery, a perfect home for legend. The sea monster secrets endure. Loch Ness origins live on, always hidden, always alive, always waiting. Loch Ness has lived in the human imagination for centuries. It is more than water, more than depth, more than mist. It is a mirror for our dreams, a stage for our fears, a home for our wonder. This is why the legend never fades. Each generation adds new stories. Each voice joins the chain. The loch itself remains silent, Yet silence is enough. Silence breathes mystery. Silence feeds imagination. Silence keeps the sea monster's secrets alive. Silence keeps Loch Ness origins unbroken. Scientists come with instruments. They scan the depths. They map the floor. They count the fish. They record strange shapes. Some vanish, some blur. None bring certainty. Skeptics dismiss them. Believers embrace them. Both keep the story alive, for certainty would end it. Mystery keeps it eternal. Villagers tell stories by firelight. They describe humps rolling in the mist, long necks rising at dusk, eyes shining faintly in moonlight. These details repeat through time. They weave a tapestry of memory. They keep the creature alive, not in flesh, but in imagination. Tourists arrive with hope. They ride boats. They wait by the shore. They take photographs. Most capture nothing, but even nothing feels powerful. For the silence itself whispers. The mist itself breathes. The water itself hides. And in that hiding lies the legend. Imagine one midnight when the loch is still, the stars faint, the hills dark, the mist thick. A group of travelers sits by the water. They laugh at the stories. They doubt the legend. Then a ripple moves, slow, wide. They fall silent. A shape rises. Long neck, small head, dark body gliding. The travelers freeze. Their breath halts. Then the shape sinks again. The water closes. The mist thickens. The silence deepens. They whisper what they saw. Some believe, some deny, but all remember. Another voice joins the chain. Another layer in the sea monster secrets. Another step in Loch Ness origins. The loch itself remains unchanged. Yet every witness makes it grow. Every skeptic makes it stronger. Every believer makes it eternal. This is the rhythm of the legend. Silence, then shadow, then silence again. Consider the storm that rolls across the highlands. Lightning cracks. Thunder shakes. Rain lashes the water. Waves crash against the shore. In the storm, a boat drifts. The crew clings tight. Suddenly, a massive shape rises beside them. A neck tall and curved. Eyes glowing in the lightning. The creature glides effortlessly while men struggle. Then it sinks. The storm closes. The crew survives. But their voices change forever. They tell the story. It spreads again. It strengthens the chain. The sea monster secrets deepen. Loch Ness origins breathe again. This is how legends live. Not through proof, but through memory. Not through certainty, but through silence. Proof kills wonder. Silence feeds it. That is why Loch Ness remains eternal. A place where the past still breathes, where the unknown still waits, where imagination still lives. The creature may never be proven. It may never be captured, yet it is real in story, real in memory, real in dream, and dreams are enough. The loch gives us darkness. We fill it with light. The loch gives us silence. We fill it with whispers. The loch gives us shadows. We fill them with monsters. This is the essence of the legend. This is the power of sea monster secrets. This is the soul of Loch Ness origins. Always hidden, always alive, always waiting. Loch Ness is no longer only a place in Scotland. It has become a name known across the world. People in distant lands speak of Nessie. They tell stories of a monster in a dark lake. They imagine long necks breaking the surface. They picture humps rolling in the mist. The legend has grown beyond geography. It has become global. It has become cultural. This is the power of sea monster secrets. This is the reach of Loch Ness origins. In books and films, the creature appears again and again. Sometimes it is fierce. Sometimes it is gentle. Always it is mysterious. Children draw it in classrooms. Tourists wear it on shirts. Writers use it as symbol. It has become more than myth. It has become icon. Scientists still debate. They publish studies. They analyze sonar readings. They test water samples. They argue about evidence. Some dismiss the legend as fantasy. Others say possibility remains. The debate itself keeps the story alive. For every argument against, there is a voice. For every skeptic, there is a believer. For every silence, there is a whisper. And the loch itself remains unchanged. Deep, dark, silent, mysterious. Consider how many people stand on its shore each year. They come with cameras. They come with questions. They come with hope. Most see nothing. Yet they leave changed. For even in silence, the loch speaks. It speaks through absence. It speaks through mystery. It speaks through imagination. Imagine now a quiet night, the moon hidden, the mist heavy. A group of travelers waits by the water. They have heard the stories. They doubt. They laugh. Then the water ripples. Slowly, smoothly, a shape rises. A neck, a head. Eyes glimmer faintly. The travelers fall silent. For one heartbeat, time stops. Then the creature sinks. The water closes. The mist thickens. The silence deepens. They whisper among themselves. Some believe, some deny. But the memory lives. Another echo for the sea monster secrets. Another layer in Loch Ness origins. This is the rhythm of the legend. Silence, then shadow, then silence again. Always repeating, always alive. Skeptics argue that illusions explain everything. That fog and light create monsters. That fear creates shapes. Perhaps, but belief is stronger than doubt. Imagination is stronger than explanation. Silence is stronger than proof. For silence leaves room. Room for wonder. Room for fear. Room for hope. And people need these things. This is why they return. Year after year. Decade after decade. They stand by the shore. They stare into the mist. They wait. They hope. They dream. The loch gives nothing certain. Yet it gives everything needed. Darkness, silence, depth, mist. A perfect stage for mystery. A perfect home for legend. The sea monster secrets endure. Loch Ness origins remain. Imagine now a storm. Lightning cracks. Thunder shakes. Waves crash against the shore. In the storm, a fisherman rows. His boat rocks violently. Suddenly, a shadow rises. A neck sways. Eyes shine in the lightning. The creature glides effortlessly while he struggles. Then it sinks again. The water closes. The storm rages on. The fisherman survives. But his memory burns forever. He tells his story. It spreads. It strengthens the chain. The sea monster secrets deepen. Loch Ness origins breathe again. This is how the legend endures. Not in proof, not in certainty, but in silence, in imagination, in memory. This is the power of the loch. This is the power of mystery, always hidden, always alive, always waiting. Loch Ness remains eternal. The water stretches long and dark through the highlands. The mist drifts low across its surface. The hills rise silent like ancient guardians. In this place, time feels slow. In this place, history feels near. People come from every corner of the world. They stand at the shore. They stare into the darkness. They wait. Some see ripples. Some see shadows. A few claim to see the long neck rise. Each voice joins the chain. Each story strengthens the legend. The loch itself remains silent. Yet silence is enough. Silence breathes life into the myth. Silence feeds imagination. Silence keeps the sea monster secrets alive. Silence keeps Loch Ness origins unbroken. Scientists will continue their work. They will scan the depths. They will test the waters. They will study the currents. Each time they will find fragments. A blur, a shape, a shadow. Each time they will debate. Some will dismiss. Others will believe. The argument itself is fuel. For as long as questions remain, the legend survives. Skeptics demand proof. Believers demand wonder. Both keep the story alive. Consider the villagers who live near the loch. They tell their children bedtime stories of Nessie. They laugh and smile. But in their eyes there is belief, for they know silence has weight. They know mystery has power. They know the loch holds something more than water. Imagine one last night. The stars faint, the moon hidden, the mist heavy. A lone traveller sits by the shore. He has heard the stories. He has read the books. He has doubted. He has hoped. The water is still. The silence deep. Then a ripple moves. Slowly, widely, a shape rises. A neck long and curved. Eyes glimmer faintly. For one heartbeat time itself halts. The traveller breathes slowly. He knows he is part of something greater. Then the creature sinks. The water closes. The mist thickens. The silence returns. The traveller sits frozen, his heart racing. He cannot prove what he saw. Yet he knows. His story will be told. His whisper will join the chain. Another echo for the sea monster secrets. Another breath for Loch Ness origins. This is how legends endure. Not in certainty, not in evidence, but in silence, in imagination, in memory. Proof would kill the magic. Silence keeps it alive. This is why Nessie will never die. The creature is more than beast. It is symbol. Symbol of wonder. Symbol of possibility. Symbol of the unknown that still lingers in the modern world. In every ripple the legend stirs. In every shadow the past breathes. In every silence the story grows. The loch itself holds the secret. The people themselves keep the voice. Together they sustain the myth. Together they guard the mystery. This is the meaning of Loch Ness. This is the essence of the legend. Eternal, mysterious, alive, the sea monster. Secrets will always remain. The Loch Ness origins will never fade. The story has no end. The story is endless as the water, deep as the silence, strong as imagination, always hidden, always alive, always waiting.